Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. Things are still looking a little bit different, but I hope that you're enjoying it. I hope that you're getting something out of it. And today we're going to continue to chat with Steve and Zoe, unpacking marriage after kids, how it changed, what it looks like, and little things that they've learned and they did to help them in their journey. I can't wait to dive into today's episode. All right, now we have Steve and Zoe back in the podcast studio. You guys having a good day?
We sure are.
You guys enjoying the fact that the sunshine is back?
Man, it is a game changer.
It's giving me life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, you kind of briefly mentioned it in the episode last week, and I'm sure we'll dive into it a little bit more in this episode. But did you take the girls on like a camping trip recently?
Yes, I did. Two of my schoolmates and their kids, and I took Sophie and Olivia up camping to the Hakwa Valley, and yeah, it was just absolutely incredible. Freezing cold.
It. Oh.
We found snow on a hike up the mountain, but it was just fantastic.
Did the girls survive okay? They weren't. Are they like, I feel like when I was growing up, I was such a whinger. Like if mum and dad took us to the beach, I was like, I can't carry it. It's too heavy.
Oh, they have their moments.
They do have their moments, definitely. Yeah, but look, they pushed through. I think there was one day was about a 5.5, 6K hike up the mountain, and then second day,
their little legs.
Yeah, went on another hike along the river, so they did so well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe I should train with them. At least they'll give me great encouragements.
Yeah, they will.
They'd be like, go Ash.
Yeah.
So all in last week's episode, we were talking about marriage, those first few years of marriage. And I guess I want to do an episode today on how, I guess, marriage changed for you guys after having kids. I think that I'm kind of only just hitting the age where some of my friends are starting to have kids and my family is starting to have kids. And I guess I've already started to see how different life can start to look pretty much instantly. But I guess I'd just love to hear from you guys, how has life changed since you've had kids? So, if you missed last week's episode, go listen to that first. But then obviously you guys now have two beautiful girls.
They do.
How did life change once you had them? How did your marriage change once you had them?
I think it stops becoming about two of you, and in our case has become about four of us. But when there's a little life entrusted to you, the responsibility for that is huge. And so you have to navigate that from the day you find out, well, in fact, from the day you decide, hey, we want to have kids, you really have to start thinking about, well, if we're our own little family, what's going to change? What's going to be important to us? How are we going to do this together? And the biggest change is that it doesn't become about the two of you anymore. It becomes about this little person you brought into the world, and they are all consuming. They're beautiful, and I love my babies, but it's all consuming.
Yeah. Oh, they certainly. It just, you think that you're busy, working maybe a full-time job and some of your social commitments, but as soon as you throw a kid or two in the mix, you go to the next level, and life's just crazily busy, and it is. The focus is on the kids, but you got to learn to adjust in those seasons and, make sure that you're investing in the kids, but then also investing in our marriage.
Yeah, so good. When you had kids, was there something you didn't expect about how life would change?
Oh, I'll let you answer this one because this is your favourite topic.
Didn't expect.
Something around being a little short-tempered.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the reminder, Zoe.
Reminding me.
No problem.
So I am generally quite a calm, chilled out guy. Quite, talk, quite, I don't know what the word is.
Very level.
Level-headed.
You've got a very mellow personality.
Yeah. I was known as a gentle giant, and when you have kids, one of the most common thing is sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that when I was low on sleep, I became extra irritable and worn out, and my buttons became pressed, and I just
very diplomatic.
I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can,
you can be honest.
But I didn't realize that I was very irritable, and I got frustrated and irritated and cross, and that was because I was so exhausted.
It's so true. Even our pastors at the moment have just had the cutest little babies.
Yes.
So cute. But I don't think until I saw them kind of go back into normal work life. I'm not saying this because our pastors are being irritable. I'm saying this because I've always just thought, and yes, obviously the main thought is to the mum, but I really never considered the dad in the equation of having kids, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was very much just like, focus on the mum, focus on the baby, and like the dad's had it pretty good. But I think that when I have started to see my people that are closest to me have kids, you very quickly realize dads are impacted pretty heavily as well. And, you're not sleeping as well. Plus, you also go to work the next day and all those things. And not that mums aren't, but it's interesting how for someone who hasn't had kids yet, you don't think about that at the time.
Yeah.
You don't think about the impact of that. And so hearing you say that just made me go, yeah, it's hard. It's not it's not as easy as you probably once thought.
Yep.
No, it's not.
Oh, how about you, Zoe? Is there something you didn't expect?
Your personality changes a little bit because you're adjusting to lack of sleep, high demands, a little person who needs you all the time, that you're trying to work them out and trying to figure out what they need and who they are. And just, that you get so comfortable in your bubble with your husband and your wife, relationship, and you think you know someone and you're like, yeah, sweet, we've got this. I know how you operate. You know how I operate. And then all of a sudden, the one little being turns your whole world upside down.
Yeah.
And you've got to adjust to, again, I mean, for us, it's probably a theme in our marriage, and I will talk about it openly regularly, but the theme of grace. If you don't have that for each other in that space, it's really hard.
Yeah.
So, just adjusting to your role as a mum or a dad. It's very different to being a husband or a wife. It's a totally different thing, but you're still doing it together. Yeah. So it's also learning to navigate that.
Yeah. That's so good. Now, once you had kids, obviously, like you said, you get busier and busier and busier. How did you guys prioritize your marriage once you had kids? And that might be like you were like, at the beginning, we didn't know how to do that, or maybe you've learned it now, or maybe you mastered it from the beginning. What did it look like for you guys?
We totally had no idea how to do that. No. I think we sat there as very sleep-deprived parents on a couch one night, and we were like, what is this? Like, how do we make this, work? And I think the biggest, and again, this is the value of having mentors in your life that are seasons ahead of you, because they can speak into these seasons and be like, guys, try this. This is really helpful. Try this. And so
having people you can be vulnerable and honest and open with.
And one of the things that someone suggested to us was, guys, date night doesn't look like it used to, but it's just as important. And we had totally neglected date night. It had gone out the window. There was no night or day in our world. And so we weren't dating at all. And, it's important to still date your husband or wife when you're married. It's important to prioritize that. And so we started to learn, and we're still on that journey, and it changes in every season of parenting, but date night can still exist. It looks different, and it might be, hey, we get somebody to come and sit in the lounge room with our baby while we go and walk around the block together for half an hour. Or it might be the baby's finally asleep. We're actually just going to sit and have a meal together, or watch a movie together. Or, you need to adapt to what you're able to do in that space, but still find time for each other. And that was such a game-changing choice in our marriage, especially with very little people when the girls were really young. Just choosing to see date night differently and choosing to prioritize that however it worked, and having people who could help us prioritize that in our world was super important.
Yeah, definitely changing our expectation of what a date night looked like. As you said, it may have been a 20-minute walk around the block while someone looked after the bub, which is really cool. But my dad taught me that God is always number one in our life. My wife is number 2 and kids number 3. And I will always be a husband before I was a father. And so, being intentional about investing in our marriage. And that might be, through some spontaneous activities, but knowing what really fills Zoe's tank and playing towards those was really important.
Yeah, that's so great. Now, we kind of asked this question last time about what you would have said to freshly married Steve and Zoe. What would you have said to fresh parent Steve and Zoe?
So much.
What would you say to be like, you'll be okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Someone will hold your hand and tell you it is okay.
Yeah.
You're not ready? I'm
Go
no.
for it. You are. Go for it.
I think, for me, it's definitely knowing that we get caught up in doing so much, doing the routines, the washing, the cleaning, the housework, the jobs, everything. And the longer, I've been a parent, I've realized that there's so much power in saying thank you and being grateful to your spouse, but actually saying those words. And I mean, we both put in, 110% into this marriage, into raising these kids, but you can get caught up so much in just the doing life, and just there's so much power and importance in just saying thank you and taking some time just to be grateful.
So good.
Yeah, I love that. I think also I would definitely say to us as new parents, the joy will so outweigh the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And you will look back in 10 years and you will go, the joy outweighed the hard stuff. The hard stuff is there. There is no question. And I guess I probably would have said that too, don't be fooled. It's not an easy journey. It's, on TV, it looks super, in the movies, it looks really easy. It looks really chill, but it's hard. And, it takes a lot out of you, but the joy will always outweigh the hard stuff. The stuff that you see when you see your kids thriving and you see them growing and being a part of your family unit, that joy will always outweigh the hard stuff.
Yeah. So cool. Now, just to wrap it up, obviously once you have kids, and you kind of were mentioning it in last week's episode, it's one thing to keep God at the center of your marriage when it's just you two, but what about once you have kids? What about once, like you were saying before, Steve, life gets busier and busier and you keep adding things to your schedule and you're exhausted. How have you guys learned to keep God at the center of your marriage post having kids?
Yeah, I think, again, it's that intentional space. It's making time and space to be intentional about it. But it's also, it happens so much more incidentally when you have kids, because you are raising human beings and you're the ones showing them what's important. What are the values of our family? What is it that we stand on as a family? And so incidentally, you are talking about God all the time, because that's what we're teaching our kids. That's what our family unit is based on. And so, making the most of those opportunities. And I think for us, it's about, for us as a family, every night around the dinner table, we do, what's a win and what was a hard thing today? What was a win and what was hard? And we talk about where was God in that space, and that's something we've done as a family around the dinner table since the girls were, really little. And we create space to be intentional about including God in our family unit and recognizing him and seeing where he's been in our days and in our workplaces and in our school, and, encouraging the girls in that. And then we as a family are encouraged through that. We grow through that.
Yeah. I think we have little ones watching us every move, every step of the way. And it's just, as parents, it's our responsibility to be raising them in the way that, in our values and, what we believe. And so, we've got to be intentional about investing in them. And through that, our marriage grows and our relationship grows.
So cool.
Like, find people who speak into your kids that you trust. I mean, are so fortunate that we have this awesome young adult community at church.
Yeah.
And our kids just adore the young adults.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, we're intentional about spending time with young adults because of our connection with them, but also our kids' connection with them.
Totally.
And so that's part of the intention that we're talking about. That's part of how you keep God in your family, is bringing other people in who are also going to speak life into your kids and your family and help you continue to grow.
Yeah. And I feel like you guys have mentioned a few times over the last 2 episodes is like the importance of having mentors and people that you can invite in. And I think that's what's the word. It's you have to invite people in.
Yeah.
And like you can wait for someone to ask you how you're doing or how your marriage is going as long as you want. But actually saying, hey, I give you permission to speak into our life. I give you permission to speak into this. Like, I think, you know, whether it's you guys or other couples from church we've spoken to, like that has seemed like it's been, you know, so important to just know that you're not on your own.
Yeah.
And that there's someone else that can give you that outsider's perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that no matter what season of married life you are in, you need to have that. You need to have people you can be real with, because that's part of what makes a marriage strong. You know, it is that exactly what you said, Ash. You are not alone. And it's so cool for us to have, you know, couples like you and Toby who we're speaking into being ahead of you on the journey, and then have couples ahead of us at church who are speaking into our life that are seasons ahead of us.
Yeah.
And, you know, encouraging us and going, you guys will get through this. It's okay. This season is, it's okay. Get there. And that's really
totally. I love that so much. And just like reflecting on what you said at the beginning, when you're talking about grace, just like smother it all in grace is like, I remember, I won't like say who it is, but there's a couple, like an older couple that I know. And one time I asked them, I was like, what's like the best piece of marriage advice you could give? And they were just like, forgive, give grace. Because, you know, the story of this couple that I spoke to, their story is pretty wild. Like they had some pretty hectic things go down in their life. The fact that they could stand in front of me and say, yeah, but you just forgive and you forgive again and you give grace and you give more grace. I think that's what I'm going to take out of these episodes is like grace and forgiveness.
Yep.
All those things that are, you know, help us to, I guess at the end of the day, live lives like Jesus or try and live and serve our partners like Jesus would.
Yeah.
And appreciate you guys. Thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having
us.
Hanging out.
So cool.
Love you guys so much. Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Joy podcast. Today's episode is such an encouragement. All the things that Steve and Zoe have mentioned, I know that I will want to use in the future, and hopefully they're things you can apply if you haven't already been doing them. You know, I'm sure that there are so many women, so many parents, so many men out there who have incredible wisdom and advice. People who are listening right now who have walked this journey of parenthood and have incredible things to say. Why don't you head over to the Everyday Joy podcast Facebook community group. That way you can share things that you've learned, things that you wish you knew. So why don't you share them for someone else over on that page? Don't forget, next week there will be no episodes. We are having a little 1 extra week of break, and then we will be back with our normal episodes the following week. I would encourage you, go back and listen to some episodes you haven't. I'll pop a few in the description, some of my favorite episodes. There's a really cool thing you can do. You can click filter by unplayed episodes over on Spotify and Apple Podcast and listen to some episodes you haven't caught up on. Thank you for being so understanding. Thank you for being so excited for this season of life. And I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you in a fortnight. But until then, I pray you're able to find moments of joy.